Hi guys, and welcome to an ace tanker in the Super Pershing. Yes, this is the tank I have more games in World of Tanks than any other tank. I talked about it on my recent garage review. I bought this tank when I was a very new player, and by the time I had about 10,000 games played, I think I had over 2,200 games of those 10,000 games played in the Super Pershing. Since reaching about 10k games, I've probably only played this tank maybe about 10 times since then. So I used this tank to basically grind out credits for basically all the tanks I was playing when I was still a relatively new player. But I don't play it much anymore because there are a lot of other better premium tanks I would prefer to play, but I still have a soft spot for the Super Pershing. I still think it's pretty good value for money. I still think it's a pretty good tank. Now, probably about 6 or 7 months ago, I hadn't played the Super Pershing in a long time. Someone on stream asked me to, and I played my first game in probably about a year, and it was an ace tanker. And then again, just around Christmas time this year, someone on stream said, "Hey, could you play the Super Pershing? It's your most played tank." And again I said, "Yeah, sure, why not? Haven't played this tank in ages." And it was this game, and it was another ace tanker. And I was planning to keep this for a Super Pershing review, but it turns out that the Super Pershing's either going to be getting another armor nerf or another armor buff, but regardless, the armor is going to be changed in 9.7, so there's no point in hanging on to this review, or onto this video for a review. It's just me playing a rare game in the Super Pershing and showing you guys why, even though this tank gets a lot of hate, I still like the Super Pershing. I still think it's value for money, especially if you're willing to fire a little bit of APCR when it's needed. The unusual thing, other than the fact I'm in a Super Pershing, is the fact there are two Unicums, two reroll Unicums on the enemy team in Super Pershings. So it's very rare you get to see Unicums playing Super Pershings. It's really not the tank of choice for either rerolls or Unicums. You usually see them in IS6s, but yeah, 3 Super Pershings in this game, 2 very good players on the enemy team in Super Pershings, and it's a tier 9 game, so a lot of very tough tanks on the enemy team, like E75, T54. So this is not a perfect matchup, and in a tier 9 game, yeah, you do have to fire some premium when you're in a Super Pershing, but you can still earn credits. It's still a decent tank, and let's just get going. Now, this game was a big team effort. As you can see, lots of good players on the enemy team, lots of good tanks on the enemy team. This was a big team effort. Lots of good performances. We had a very good Borsig player, Will 645. Our T28 prototype did a really good job. Our Artie did a really good job in this game. But yeah, I was going into this game, I thought maybe it's a 50-50, but we're gonna have to deal with those Super Pershings. We're gonna have to deal with the T54. Now, as you can see, I'm doing 38 kilometers an hour along here. When the Super Pershing gets up to speed and it's on flat ground, it's fine. It's a heavy tank. I know it's a medium tank, but you play it exactly like a heavy tank. One of the Super Pershing's problems is when you decide to go uphill, and you can see my speed dropping off a lot here as I'm going uphill. So this is definitely not a hill warrior. It climbs hills really badly, but it does have fairly decent gun depression. And even though the armor is not great, it is still troll. And even though the gun is not great, it's still perfectly, it's fine if you're willing to fire a little bit of APCR. There are lots and lots of tanks in tier 8 that basically have similar penetration. But I've moved up. I want to engage the Super Pershings, and there they are. Is an IS6 coming down. Unfortunately, someone rams me from behind. WZ-120, and he misses his shot. So if you look at the mini-map, most of the enemy team are over here. There are only 4 tanks that haven't been spotted, and believe it or not, 3 of those tanks are over here as well. So basically the entire enemy team, with the exception of maybe a Borsig, an Artie, and an SU-12244, are over here. And I decide there are too many tanks in that corner. This T-32 is in a bad way. He's being pushed by these Unicoms. I need to take these Unicoms out of this game. Otherwise, we are going to get flanked. So I've relocated. And, oh, better target than the Super Pershing is the T-54. So I track the T-54 in place. But now the Unicoms are coming. T-54 is here. And I'm desperately trying to help my team magically bounce a shot on the lower glacis, shooting up at the lower glacis on the T-54. But yeah, I couldn't save the T-32. Now I go for a shot on the Super Pershing, and I was shooting up at an angle. I would have penned that if I'd been on flat ground. There's a very flat piece of armor just below the gun mantlet. But now I need to start putting the armor in use here. So we get a shot into his weak spot, but I've got two Super Pershings. I don't have a lot of support. Our Borsig has just died, but if you look at the minimap, I'm aware I have a Borsig and I have a T-28 prototype. So these guys have been baited around this corner. There we go. One of them is dead, the other guy has been baited around the corner. And again, I'm staying on the move, preventing easy shots, and he reverses again straight into the T-28 prototype. So, yeah, those two guys made a huge mistake. You can see me looking over at the Borsig and the T-28 prototype, but again, you can see my map awareness here. I was aware the TDs were backing me up. They came down to, enemy Pershings came down to kill me. Got taken out. But again, my map awareness has kicked in here. I've no chance of helping that T-34, so I retreat. And unfortunately, I got spotted, took another hit from the T-29, and I really wish I still had that health. That comes back to haunt me. But basically, T-34 goes down, and now look at all of these enemy tanks coming around this corner. There's a KV-4, there's an E-75, I'm going to need premium ammo for those guys. But I've got two TDs backing me up, I've got RT backing me up, I'm asking my team to keep an eye on the minimap. So I go for a shot on the one-hit kill, just to reduce the number of tanks in the game. But this E-75 comes around, I miss my track shot, and I switch to premium because I can't deal with an E-75. So I'm using my premium ammo. IS-8, another tier 9 tank here. And I track him in place. I'm hoping someone can kill him. I need backup from my TDs. And yeah, thankfully, get another shot in, track him again. T-28 prototype takes him out. But now here comes the E-75. So I track the E-75, I'm hoping my team can do damage to him. He manages to get a shot into me. I'm down to 186 health. I really need these TDs behind me to give me help here. So E-75 is fired. Again, I'm advancing. And a KV-4. So I'm staying with the APCR. KV-4, E-75, I have to use APCR against these guys. But I don't have time to switch out my ammo. And you can see me constantly looking behind me. I'm worried about being flanked. But I've got those TDs backing me up. Now, unfortunately, the Borsig here, who is giving me support, makes a big mistake, in my opinion. He's decided to abandon me. He's decided he's going to flank the enemy tanks. Our RT takes out the IS-3. This is just a huge defensive effort. Again, trying to sneak shots in, keeping these tanks spotted, letting RT put shots in, but our T-28 prototype has died, and now my Borsig has left me alone. My Borsig has run away. He's trying to flank the enemy tanks, and that means that the tanks in front of me are able to advance. So I track the IS-2. Unfortunately, he has a repair kit. I'm being pushed by the IS-2. I'm being pushed by the KV-4. Borsig takes on the E-75. Big mistake, I think. At least that's my opinion. But I'm bouncing shots. Just bounced 2 shots again. I've got to get away from this E-75. Got to get away from him. But the enemy E75 was a good player. He knew what he was doing. He took me out first. And I thought this was a lost cause. There's still possible to win at this moment in time. Our Borsig does take out the E75 eventually, but I really, really wished he'd back me up instead of trying to flank. But yeah, there goes our Comet. So our Comet's dead. This KV4 comes down. I'm really thinking, yeah, it's 2v2 right now. And the KV4 is almost dead. So, just flicking through. And, yeah, Borsig dies. So the enemy Borsig must have put a shot in. But basically now, I thought, darn, we've lost this game. You can see even our Comet is saying camping Borsig next time. I don't actually, you may have been talking to the enemy Borsig, but yeah, I thought this game was lost. Our GW Panther did a great job supporting me. The two TDs did a great job supporting me. I ran away, just held them off as long as I could with support, and I really thought the game was lost at this point. But KV4 on low health. GW Panther has been spotted. He's taking his time, he's not panicking. And a beautiful shot over the buildings. So it is now 1v1. Alright, and people are congratulating RT in chat. So my issue is, this is a 9.5 replay. Unfortunately, the Borsig still has all its view range. So my concern right now is the fact that GW Panther is moving and the Borsig has very, very good view range. So we're speeding it up. And the Borsig's covering, or the GW Panther's covering cap, but I know that the Borsig's going to be able to spot RT long before RT spots the Borsig, or so I think. So I was typing right at that moment saying Borsig has better view range, stay hidden, but right at that moment GW Panther actually spots the Borsig. So now it is 1v1, and I love what this GW Panther is doing. See, there's a 50-meter proxy spot range. And what the GW Panther has just done is he's reversed back down this corner. Don't know if he's doing it intentionally, but what it means is that the Borsig needs to come around this corner. Maybe he's not doing it intentionally, he shouldn't be moving forward. But if the Borsig comes around the corner and the GW Panther was further down, the Borsig could be around the corner and not proxy spot the GW Panther until the GW Panther was ready to kill him. It still works out that way. GW Panther has set up an ambush waiting for the Borsig to advance. And there you go. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful shot. Nice shotgun effort by our GW Panther. And he saves the game. So our team are happy. But yeah, I thought it was a really, really good performance from our Borsig, from our T28 prototype, and our Arty. Really, really good games, guys. Congratulations. So even though I died, I think that's one of the more interesting games I've played in World of Tanks in a long, long time. Really, really nice team effort. We ganged up, tricked the Super Pershings into advancing into TD fire. They got taken out, and that was the two best players on the enemy team gone. Held a corner, retreated, kept an eye on the minimap, and basically just kept spotting tanks for Arty and for our tank destroyers. Yeah, I think that game I was on the seat, or on the edge of my seat for quite a lot of that game, but it was another ace tanker. Ended up picking up Confederate. Still annoyed I died, but you can't win them all. 1412 XP, 3,449 damage done, and 2 kills. Now again, I did have to fire some APCR in that game, but you do in a Super Pershing, when you do in pretty much every premium tank. Tier 8 premium tank, a lot of them have to fire premium if you're up against E75s or even angle KV4s. But I fired 23, hit 20, penned 15, received 11 hits. Now people say that the armor on the Super Pershing is still bad, or is bad. I don't think it's bad. I think it's worse than it used to be, but I still think the armor can be quite troll. You saw me bouncing a couple of shots from an E75. You saw me bouncing an IS-8. You saw me bouncing a couple of shots from a KV-4. The armor can be very, very troll, and I think it's still very, very good. So I blocked 1600 damage with my armor. I think my tracks actually absorbed a shot or two as well. I spotted 1, damaged 9, destroyed 2, did 1200 assistance damage. I thought my assistance damage might have been a little bit higher, but not so. But happy with the damage, happy with the assistance damage. And we earned 107,000 XP. Or 107,000 credits with a premium account. Now, I do have to admit that I did get fined at the beginning of that game for bumping into a Chiri that decided to park right in front of me. I probably have some of my premium rounds sitting in the depot. That's probably why the credit earning is so high, but it's a credit earner. Even though it's not the best credit earner at tier 8, the Super Pershing will still earn credits. 2,000 XP on a ×2 first game of the day, probably my first game in months and months and months. First time I played the Super Pershing since the last Ace Tanker, and again, that game was played a long, long time before the Super Pershing game before that. So I don't play the tank very much anymore, even though it's a tank I have most games in World of Tanks. But I still think it's value for money. I still think it's a decent premium tank. The only thing you've got to do is remember it's a heavy tank. Even though it's a medium tank and you're training up medium crews, play it like a heavy. Use its gun depression, try to angle a little bit but not too much, and stay on the move so enemy tanks don't have easy shots at your weak spots. But I ended up earning 4,447 XP overall, and yeah, this is why I had never sold my Super Pershing. This is why I tend to have good games in the Super Pershing every time I hop into it. I think it's still a pretty solid premium tank. Not as good as it once was. It's not a tank you can really carry games in, and that's why you don't see a lot of very good players driving it. But I think for an average player, or even for a new player, I think the Super Pershing is okay. The biggest issue maybe a new player has with buying a Super Pershing is the fact it's an absolutely terrible tank with an inexperienced crew. And with a 75% crew in this tank, it was an absolute nightmare. So I can understand why so many people hate it. But once you have a good crew to put into it, I think the Super Pershing's decent value for money. So I was saving this game for a review. It's going to be a while before I review the Super Pershing, so I decided, you know what, I'm just going to record it now. Hope you enjoyed watching. I'll see you next time.